Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So a few announcements, please, before we get started. If you could make sure that all electronic devices are off, that would be very helpful. We don't want to be interrupted during the service. And also, in respect for the congregation and this evening and the families and the young people, during the service, please refrain from taking pictures. If you want to take pictures afterwards, snap away. But during the service, it's a service. We want to welcome you to this very special Friday night. Not only is Shabbat, and a very significant Shabbat at that, which we'll talk about a lot more tomorrow during Torah study, but it is the minhag, or the custom of Ahavat Chesed, to link confirmation on the Friday night closest to Shavuot, which begins Sunday night, and it's here in the sanctuary at 7 o'clock for services. These young people who you will meet, and some of you know very well, I hope, really were given an assignment a couple of months ago to take a look at the Ten Commandments, which is the basic curriculum for Shavuot and confirmation around the world. And to take a look at those commandments and to take one that really spoke to them and to write about it. So in between these prayers, the Shabbat prayers, the regular prayers for Shabbat, you're going to be inspired by what your young people have to say about this ancient text and how it relates to them. So Shabbat Shalom and welcome. And for those of you who are on the live stream, wherever you may be, hi. Shabbat Shalom to you. Shabbat Shalom to you as well. So as we greet Shabbat with Hina Matov and wait for that's it. I'm going to ask you to, in honor of these young people, as the Cantor and Mara leads them in to Hina Matov, I'm going to ask you to please rise and welcome
הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבט אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבט אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, שבט אחים גם יחד. שבט אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבט אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבט אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבט אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבט אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב, לה 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 לה. הנה מה טוב, הנה מה טוב, לה 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 לה. הנה מה טוב, נעים, שבט אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומנעים, שבט אחים גם יחד.
You may be seated. And I'm going to ask you to please turn to page 6.
This has to come forward because it's making a ring and I have to move it forward.
I have to. What?
I had to move the microphone forward, Rabbi, because it being so far away, it was creating a ring.
A ring?
A ring.
A ring?
And not the nice kind.
I'll be good and not respond because she'll laugh. See? Watch, watch this. Never fails. Page 6.
We enter this sanctuary to welcome Shabbat. Within these walls, we sit surrounded by numberless generations. Our ancestors built this synagogue as a visible sign of God's presence in their midst. Throughout our long history and our endless wanderings, it has endured, a beacon of truth, love, and justice for all humanity. Its presence guided our ancestors to the lives of righteousness, holding them up to a vision of their truest selves. Now we, in our turn, come into this sanctuary to affirm the sacredness of our lives, that we may enter this place in peace. May holiness wrap around us as we cross its threshold. Weariness, doubt, the flaws within our human hearts, the harshness of the weak, let these drop away at the door. In the brightness of Shabbat, let peace settle upon us as we lift our hearts in prayer.
Thank you. Please pay particular attention to those last couple of lines. This is a very, very difficult Shabbat for the entire worldwide Jewish community. There's no need to rehash all the political stuff and what's happening in the Middle East. But look at the words that will be prayed tonight. And these last couple of lines that Cam read, they speak to what many people, Jewish communities around the world are feeling but cannot express. This is a very difficult Shabbat on a whole variety of different levels. And it is fitting then that we honor young people at this moment. And that is fitting to welcome Shabbat with the blessing of the candles. Please turn to page 2.
He was lighting and I'm singing. Oh, good. But you're cute.
We're working it out. I have it there just in case.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik shel Shabbat.
And we welcome this Shabbat. Ask you to please turn to page 20 and join with the Cantor and the Lecha Dodi. And a reminder that as we get to the final verse, the tradition is we rise, we face the door to welcome the Sabbath bride. When we get to that paragraph, it's number 9 in your book, Boi V'Shalom Lecha Dodi.
La 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 lecha dodi, la 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 lecha kala, la 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 peri Shabbat, hine Shabbat nikaba, shamor v'zachor, v'dibur echad. Ishmianu hamiuchad Adonai echad U'shmo echad L'shem u'tiferet V'hi chila La 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 שבת נקרא לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה כי מקור הברכה מראש מכם נסוכה סוף מעשה נשבה תחילה לי 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 לה 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 לך דודי לה 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 לקראת קרה לה 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 פני שבת פני שבת נקבלה התעוררי כי בורך כל יורי אורי שיר דברי כבוד אדוני לך נגלה שבת נקבלה בואי ושלום עצרת בלה גם בשמחה ובצהולה אך אמוני עם סגולה בואי חלה לי 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 לה 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 לך דודי לה 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 לקראת קרה לה 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 פני שבת נקרא לה 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 לך דודי פני שבת נקבלה.
Please be seated. And for our first readings, we'd like to call up this group of three, Vesper, Jacob, and Aaron, to the bema.
Hello everyone, Shabbat Shalom. So when asked which of the Ten Commandments resonates with me the most, the first thought in my mind wasn't about idol worship and was more about the more obvious ones like thou shalt not murder. However, when I started thinking about it, the commandment to banning idol worship doesn't just have to apply to stuff like the golden calf. It applies to many other things in the modern world, particularly narcissism. Narcissism is quite prevalent in modern society. People literally can make a living nowadays just by taking pictures of themselves in skimpy outfits and posting it on Instagram. Social media tends to perpetuate this culture of worshiping the self, with everyone seeming want to shout from the rooftops about how great they are. Sites like TikTok and YouTube have entire genres populated with people whose content is just them looking for attention, such as the genres of prank videos, travel vlogs, and celebrities such as the Kardashians can go out and post on Twitter that they did a completely normal thing, like go to a sushi restaurant, because they know that a particular post will get a ton of attention, not just from their obsessed fans, but from the tabloids as well, who help perpetuate all of this. More and more of our world is starting to revolve around a culture of worshiping the self, which has resulted in a world where people being toxic and attention-seeking is normalized and accepted. The hubris of mankind has grown and grown beyond control due to humankind's ignoring of this commandment. And if this continues, it's entirely possible that it can be the downfall of our species. Shabbat shalom.
In this speech, I will be asking you a lot of questions. The point of this next 5 minutes is not for me to tell you what is correct or what is incorrect. Instead, what I want to impart to you is that you can't just go through life accepting everything you are told. You need to sit back and really think about and question things. And I hope you keep this in mind while listening to my speech. The fourth commandment. What is it? For those of us who don't remember what the fourth commandment is, it says that we must observe the Sabbath to keep it holy. When Rabbi Address asked us to read through the 10 Commandments and pick the one that stood out to us, the fourth commandment caught my eye. It is mainly the second part that stood out to me, to keep it holy. This phrase, to keep it holy, really got me thinking. It made me realize that we make things important. Nothing, and I mean nothing, has power unless we give it power. Money is just paper, but society has given it value. What about words? Let's say you utter a curse word. It would be portrayed as such because you have been taught that that word is a curse. However, if society did not deem it a bad word, then it would just be any other word. If we make inanimate objects important, what about living things? Well, I think that we can all agree that our pets are pretty useless, but we still love them. Why? Because we have given them importance. And without this importance, they would just be another species living in the wild. This made me realize that God has no power unless we believe in a God. Imagine there is no religion, no Torah, no Bible, no Quran. Now let's say that all the water in the Nile turned red. I do not know what people will believe the cause to be. But what I do know is that since they don't believe in a God, they wouldn't believe that God brought this upon them. But since there are religious books, people believe that something is brought on by God. But if we don't believe in a God, then that God will have no power to influence us. Now I know what I'm about to say is controversial, but please bear with me. Why do people believe in God? Is it because a book told us to, or is there something more? Humans have been trying to find the meaning of life from the beginning of our existence. To answer the question, why are we here? The Torah, Bible, and Quran all answer that there is a higher being who put us here on earth, and people have accepted that answer for over 2 millennia. The 3 major religions also answer another big question: what happens when we die? I don't know about y'all, but I have spent hours thinking about this. So far, humans have not been able to wrap our heads around the scientific answer. Nothing happens when we die. Our bodies just decompose and become part of this earth. But if we believe that there is a heaven that we are all trying to get to, that puts our mind at ease by answering both questions: why are we here, and what happens when we die? I know I just talked a lot about the second part of the second commandment, about the fourth commandment, but I also want to talk about the first. What does observing the Sabbath mean? Can it mean different things to different people? Does it mean that one must go to services? Can you do nothing yet still be observing the Sabbath? What if you rest? Does that count? For those of us who come to /watch services every Friday night, rain, shine, or COVID, you may think that this is the way, the whole way, and nothing but the way to pray to God. However, for me, I have school till 3:15, sports practice till 6, and commitments all day Sunday. Therefore, I get my homework done on Saturday, and I hang out with my family on Friday night. Therefore, I don't have time to come to services. Does this still count as observing the Sabbath? I would argue that it does, even if it is not in the traditional way, since I am spending quality time with the ones that I love. Okay, I know that no one wants this service to last forever, so I will leave everyone with one final thought. What does the concept of Shabbat mean? Does it mean you must observe God? Does it mean you must attend services? Or does it mean something else? Personally, I believe that the meaning of Shabbat is to take a break, rest, and reconnect with your friends, family, and most importantly, yourself. Thank you.
Okay. This speech, the main idea was to share which commandment relates to me the most. And the commandment that I relate to the most is the fifth commandment, honor your father and mother. I chose this commandment because my parents are there for me all the time, and I would never want to be disrespectful or rude to them after so much they do. They provide food, love, and a home. The fifth commandment is all about honoring your parents. So it's natural to think, what does it mean by honor? First, I don't think it means start feeding them grapes and get on their knees and bow to them like a king. The meaning of honor your father and mother explains that you should respect them in word and in action, because honor is giving respect not only for merit, but also for your elders. So on top of them being so nice and loving to me already, you need to honor your parents because they are older than you, and because you know what they say, with age comes wisdom. Honestly, I think it's a given, though, that we need to respect our parents, because after all, they're everything to us. But the real question is, how do you really honor them? When you honor your parents, is it through winning an award, getting an A on a test, or just listening to what they have to say after work? At the end of the day, it's probably up to their discretion. But for me, I tried to honor my parents the best I can by doing good in school and trying to stay out of trouble. I also chose the fifth commandment because I see my parents all the time, and we share conversation and meals with each other. Because we do these things, I think it relates to the fifth commandment because they provide so much, and me as a child who can't provide for my family, I try to honor them in different ways, like taking out the trash, doing the dishes, staying on my behavior, and cleaning the house. Those were all chores that contribute to my parents' home, so I would say that doing chores in a way would be honoring your parents. As described in the Torah, honoring one's parents is also described as an analog to honoring Hashem. According to the prophet Jeremiah, God refers to himself as Father to Israel. And according to the prophet Isaiah, God refers to Israel as his son and daughters. Both quotes are from famous prophets that help me realize that in the image of Hashem, you honor your father and mother is honoring Hashem as well. This project has really helped me understand more, not just about this commandment, but all the other commandments as well, but especially the fifth. This commandment I still believe I relate to the most because I have a strong relationship with my parents, and even though we argue about stupid things sometimes, I always try to honor them whenever possible. Even though at home sometimes I forget to do the dishes and always make an excuse about why should we have to clean the house today. Mom and Dad, from me doing all this research, I'm still not sure if I honor you to the best of my ability, but I want to let you know that I love you guys, and I will try wherever and whenever I can.
I told you would be. Now, you may not know this, they may not know this, and all the essays, but and they probably have not studied Talmud yet. But each one of the essays that you're going to read really channels passages from the rabbinic tradition. And we don't have the time to walk through all of them, but you should know that, especially those of you who are parents, that in each one of these themes, there's a channeling of certain parts of Talmudic logic and Talmudic and Jewish law. So that's really cool. It's really cool. Our service will continue, and I'm going to ask you to please rise in body or spirit. Turn to page 28 and join with the cantor in the call to worship, the Baruch Hu.
Am I awake? Am I prepared? Are you listening to my prayer? Can you hear my voice? Can you understand? Am I awake? Am I prepared? Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam va'ed, Le'olam va'ed. Yadalai lai lai, 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 Yadalai lai lai. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Borei yom v'layla, golel lon mipnei choshech, golel lon mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Roll into dark, roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night. Borei yom v'layla, golel lon mipnei choshech, golel lon mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or. Roll into dark, roll into light. Night becomes day, day turns to night.
Page 32.
Everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and on your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Elohim.
36, please, page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך ובכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי אצווך היום על לבבך ושוב למנתם ונדרך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשובתך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך ובתרתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיהם. אני אדוני אלוהיהם אשר הוצאתי אתם מארץ מצרים להיות להם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיהם. Now could you please turn to page 39? In a world torn by violence and pain, in a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth.
The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love.
From bondage in Egypt we were delivered. At Sinai we bound ourselves to your way.
Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces.
Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed.
Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea. Mi chamocha, page 40. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh. Noradi lo osefele, noradi lo osefele, Adonai imloch leolam va'ed. Malchutecha uvanecha, bokei hayam lifnei Moshe uMiriam. Ze Eli anu v'amru, Ze Eli anu v'amru, Adonai imloch leolam va'ed. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh. Noradi lo osefele, noradi lo osefele, Adonai imloch leolam va'ed.
And on page 42, the Hashkivenu.
לשלום, והמיתנו שומרנו לחיים. Spread the shelter of your peace over us. Guide us in wisdom, compassion, and trust. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamitenu shomerenu l'chaim. Save us for the sake of your name. Shield us from hatred, sorrow, and pain. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu l'shalom, v'hamitenu shomerenu l'chaim. L'chaim. L'chaim.
Please turn to page 43. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukkah shalom aleinu, v'kol amo Yisrael v'al Yerushalayim.
Okay. And the Vishamru on page 44.
Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et haShabbat la'asot et haShabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et haShabbat la'asot et haShabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. B'ni uvein b'nei Yisrael, b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et haShabbat la'asot et haShabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Way to go, Jacob. What? What?
Representing the entire camp movement.
Right. Brings back the good old Friday nights at Camp Harlem, the finest of the URJ camps. And we invite forward to lead us in some study and reflection on some of the commandments, Abby, Lily, and Ben.
Hello everyone, Shabbat Shalom. So out of the 10 Commandments, the one that I chose to reflect on tonight is the 5th one. Honor your mother and father. All too often we get caught up in our own world. Our hobbies, sports, schoolwork, jobs, volunteering. Everyone has different things going on in their lives. And all too often we get caught up in our own world. With all this in the front of our minds most of the day, we can forget to take a step back and recognize what truly matters in life. At the end of the day, social media or clothes or so many other superficial things are not what make us who we are today. Don't care about us. Don't help us when we are struggling. But our moms and dads have given up so much to make sure our lives are happy, successful, and filled with good memories. So I would like to take a moment to say to my parents and all parents, thank you. I know we screw up sometimes, but you have never given up on us. You have and continue to teach us right from wrong, and you teach us to respect others, but also to respect ourselves. You show us how much people care when we think we might not matter at all. You teach us that the world is a good place. This doesn't have to be exclusive to parents, though. We should also remember all the other people who guide us through lives. Our siblings, our teachers, our coaches, our friends, our role models and mentors. I chose to talk about the 5th commandment, but all of the 10 commandments are important in their own ways. Thou shalt not murder is probably a good one to remember too. But many of our morals, beliefs, and values come from following from our parents' example. And that deserves all of our recognition and respect. I know this speech isn't very long, but words can't express how grateful we are to our parents, and we always will be. Thank you.
God gave Moses the 10 Commandments for all Jewish people to follow. The most meaningful one to me is the 6th commandment. The 6th commandment, you shall not murder, may mean to most people that you simply should not kill anyone. However, this commandment means much more to me than that. Of course, you should obviously not kill, but I do believe that there are many different meanings around the words murder and kill. To start, the fact that the commandment uses the word murder and not kill means a lot. All murder is killing, but not all killing is murder. Murder is defined by the unlawful killing of another human being without a valid excuse or justification. However, kill can be defined by putting the end to a living thing's life, which in some circumstances could be justified. The commandment says, lo tirtach, which translates to do not murder. The Hebrew word for kill is harag, which is not used in this commandment. The word choice itself makes a huge difference on the meaning of the commandment and how it connects with me. If the commandment was written as, you shall not kill, I personally believe it would not have such a strong meaning. By using the word murder, this commandment proves just how valuable human life is. If the word kill was used, it would be implying that you cannot kill any living thing, such as a plant or animal, but the commandment was written strictly about human life, which is important to me, because if this commandment did not exist, there would not be a need for many of the other commandments. Not following this commandment would result in the end of a human life. That being said, if the majority of people did not follow this commandment, we would have many broken and dangerous societies. Fortunately, this commandment is so powerful that laws across the world have been made about it. The 6th commandment is one of the only commandments to do so, and without it, the world would be a very dangerous place. I do believe that there are more good people than bad people in the world. However, if this commandment did not exist and those bad people were never punished for their acts, there could be a widespread disregard for human life. There is no proof that countries around the world created laws based off of the commandments, but this specific commandment has created a societal norm across the world since recorded history. Another reason why this commandment connects with me is because I believe that it sets the basic fundamentals of human morality. It is the starting point of defining what is right or wrong and what is good or evil. This trait is what differentiates humans from other animals because we are aware that we will die one day. We know what it's like to lose someone we love, which is one of the main reasons why we humans value human life so much. Without this commandment, I personally believe that humanity would not be the way that it is. Bonds between humans would not be as strong, and we wouldn't value life as much as we do. The Torah tells us that we are made in the image of God, and we must protect ourselves and each other. With this commandment, God has expressed that there is an infinite value of life. No one person is more deserving of life over another, and if we live our lives and treat each other this way, what a beautiful world it would be for us all. Thank you.
Shabbat Shalom. I believe that the 8th commandment, thou shalt not steal, is the most significant in everyday life. This commandment preaches an honest and fair lifestyle, and I believe that living by these values is the key to a happy life. Not only does stealing harm others, but it is detrimental to the offender.
I'm going to bring this closer so he doesn't have to raise the volume. Can you take your mask off?
In a perfect world, there would be no conflict between people, but we know that that is not the case. There is crime all across the world. However, stealing is particularly damaging because it takes from others. Stealing victimizes people and puts them down. Judaism, as well as almost all teachings, praises honesty, fairness, and kindness. Theft is a dishonest and wrong act because it gives the thief a benefit that he does not deserve. But the more harmful part of this is taking what others have rightfully acquired. Now, regardless of if the theft is physical or intellectual, massive or insignificant, taking something that another person deservingly owns makes the perpetrator look nothing more than lazy and cruel. Now, in life, I think that the ultimate goal is to be happy, to be at peace with oneself and others. But by committing an act like stealing, you sour the lives of others as well as your own. An important aspect of life is figuring out how to be successful. And people have varying definitions of success. Many would argue that it has to do with physical possessions, while others believe success is dependent upon emotional and spiritual connections. Regardless of what makes up success and ultimately happiness, in our society, living has a price. The cost of living, the bare minimum to get by in the United States, is an estimated $1,900 per month. So, because theft is usually monetary, but not always, taking away from others could be wreaking havoc in people's lives. By stealing, you could be taking a meal off of a family's table or costing children a vacation to see their grandparents. That is the horrible nature of this crime. You just don't know what is going on in the lives of others. I think that I speak for many people when I say that I don't think I could feel successful or fulfilled by committing an act like this. So, in addition to harming others, stealing gives the wrongdoer an illusion of success, and that is not what our lives were intended to be. As humans, we must find success and happiness by fair means. Stealing from others is not only cheating the victim, but it is cheating yourself as well. You can never become a great person if you cannot act for yourself. Not only do you lose out on learning valuable skills for yourself, but you must live life knowing that you are only successful through the work of others. The 10 Commandments provide guidance for life that still apply today. Ultimately, stealing is offensive because it hurts the lifestyles of usually innocent victims, and it is an unfair shortcut to get what you want. In this situation, everyone loses, the thief and the thieved. By following the 8th commandment, many internal and external struggles can be eliminated, and life will be much more enjoyable. Thank you.
A thought has blown the marketplace away. There is a song on the wind and joy in the trees. Shabbat has arrived in the world. scattering a song in the silence of the night, and eternity utters a day, and eternity utters a day. Those words are on 45. Lie, 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 lie. A thought has blown the marketplace away. There's a song on the wind and joy in the trees. Shabbat has arrived in the world, scattering a song in the silence of the night, and eternity utters a day, and eternity utters a day.
We turn now to the central prayer of every service, the Amidah. You will find this on page 48. I'd ask you to please either rise in body or spirit and join Jacob in the chanting of our first several blessings, and also invite Ben and Cam forward for the intermediary readings.
Adonai sifatai titach ufia gitechilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai ve'Eloheinu Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol Hagibor v'Hanorah, El Yom, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei HaKol, V'Zocher Chasdei Avot V'Imahot, U'Mevi Gerula Lifnei V'Neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozeru Moshiach U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Vizrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Leolam Adonai, Mechayeh HaKol Atarav Lechoshia, Morid Hatol, Mechokel Chayim Bechesed, Mechayeh HaKol Berachamim Rabim, Somech Noflim Ve'Rofeh Cholim, Umatir Asurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afar, Micha Mocha Ba'al Gevurot, Umido Melach, Melech memit u'mechaye u'matzmiach Yeshua v'ne'eman ata lechayot hakol Baruch atah Adonai mechaye hakol Ata kadosh v'shimach kadosh Ukdoshim b'chol yom lecholei salah. Baruch atah Adonai ha'el ha'kadosh.
You may be seated. And I ask you to please turn to page 55, page 55.
May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle to find rest on this day, may all who suffer to find solace, may all who hurt find healing on this day, may all who despair find purpose, may all who hunger find fulfillment on this day, and may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat.
And on page 59.
When we behold your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and stars that you set in place, what are we humans that you are mindful of us? We mortals that you take note of us? You made us little less than divine, adorned us with glory and majesty. You gave us dominion over your handiwork, layering the world at our feet. How majestic is your name throughout the earth. Baruch atah Adonai, Haro shimcha la'ulcha ha'el ha'ledhodot.
And the Shalom Rav on page 60.
Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Yada'u Mechadon Lechol HaShalom. Yada'u Mechadon Lechol HaShalom. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. V'tov b'einecha levolech et Amcha Yisrael b'chol עת ובכל שעה משלומך. Shalom Rav Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. 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 Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam.
And a few moments of personal, private prayer.
say shalom bimroma. Oh, yes, say shalom aleinu. Le'al kol Yisrael. V'imru, amen. Yes, say shalom. Yes, say shalom. Shalom aleinu le'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu le'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu le'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu le'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu le'al kol Yisrael. Oh, say shalom bimroma. Oh, yaseh shalom aleinu le'al kol Yisrael. V'imru, amen. I know you have hands. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu le'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu le'al kol Yisrael.
You were not very good. We should do that again. You know, okay, listen, I'm going to come out behind the plexiglass curtain. Okay, listen, you guys are really horrible on the Don't Say Shalom. I mean, a couple of you got the easy, but some of you are sitting like, contrary to what you may have taught many years ago, it is perfectly acceptable to have fun while you're at a service. Nothing, lightning will not strike, at least I hope. It's Florida. It is true, it's Florida. That's why I have this invisible protective. You're going to feed me straight line all night. We'll be here for a long time. We'll have a lot of fun. So we're going to do this again, and really let's show a little bit of emotion here. You know, I know it's a sort of, they pretend you're at I hate to do this, a Florida Georgia game. At least that side of it. You guys in the back, I don't know. Okay, so we're going to up the tempo a little bit. So you can choose to flow. All right? It's not rocket science. It's real.
Oh, say shalom bimroma. Oh, yaseh shalom aleinu le'al kol Yisrael. V'imru, amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu le'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu le'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu le'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu le'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom. Shalom aleinu le'al kol Yisrael.
Much better, thank you. It's customary now in many synagogues at this moment to really take a few moments to reflect upon the Mishaberach for healing. There are many Mishaberach prayers. But as I said at the beginning, this is a very, very difficult Shabbat for the Jewish community around the world. There are various prayers that are being written. I have one that we're going to use on Sunday night for Erev Shavuos. But not only do we take this moment to pray for people who are ill, who are dealing with physical illness, mental illness, We offer prayers as we have, as I've mentioned to you all year, for people who take care of these people. Their caregivers, the nurses, physicians, healthcare workers who give of their time. But I would also ask you, as we do the Mishaberach prayer tonight, to also pray for those for the healing of the world. Because if you listen to the news on a regular basis, as I do, these last couple of days between the insanity in Washington and the insanity around the world and in India and just Afghanistan with the killing of these little girls just because they wanted to go to school, the world needs healing. It needs healing. And so I'd ask you in the midst of all this to remember this in our prayers this weekend. We call to mind and offer prayers for healing for the members of this congregational family on this Shabbat: Barbara Adams, Mike Arnold, Carol Babcock, Donna Berlin, Susan Borden, Rosalie Teddy Bono, Marilyn Berge, Adele and Harold Cohen, Sally Constain, Tom Davis, Devorah Bat Rachel, Helene Edwards, Lisa Eisenberg, Smitha Estonville, Sheila Feldman, Art Fields, Jay Fisk, Amanda Jeremita, David Gordon, Jim Grant, Mary Hartman, Jules Hildebrandt, Shirley Hildebrandt, Robert K., Barry Krisheff, Teresa Levy, Judy Major, Helen Maltese, Barbara McDonald, Karen Mitchum, David Orber, Kaylin Neckel, David Osowski, Laura Osowski, Merrill Palestrant, Dr. Lynn Penaviria, Buddy Pollock, Jean Posen, Randall Rout, Sandra Resnikoff, Alex Rosen, Stephanie Sibilia, Placito Segura, Ruthie Silver, Nicholas Sobek, Bernice Tobias, Georgia Triantafilopoulos, David Van Alstine, Ruth Van Alstine, Judy Van Gorder, Anne Ligau, Wagner, Dr. Dan Gottlieb.
And it is our tradition here, Rabbi, and of course this is the first evening
To
service
go
that we've
around.
been together, to go around and please come.
Right, I know that. I do that too.
Trust me, sure.
Thank you very much. So as is the custom in this congregation, and right now just about every other congregation, as we move around the sanctuary, I'm going to come out from behind the cage. Because it's a lot easier, and you can hear me from my rabbi voice. If you want to bring a name forward before we chant the blessing, as we move through the sanctuary, please feel free to let that go out. For all those we have named in public, and for all those we still hold in the privacy of our own hearts and prayers, I want to ask you to join with the Cantor with the Mishaberach.
Page 253. Mishaberach Avotenu Mikol HaBracha Imotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mishaberach Imotenu Mikol HaBracha
bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
And to offer three more reflections on these 10 commandments, we invite Ben, Cam, and Alice forward. Ben? You're leading off.
Thank you, Rabbi.
By now, you all know I am up here to tell you about which of the 10 commandments speak to me. I chose the 8th commandment, thou shalt not steal, because it spoke to me in a multitude of ways. For those of you who don't know me, I play catcher for my high school baseball team, so stealing is something I don't take lightly. Rabbis told me this is not the time to discuss the intricacies of keeping runners from stealing. I will say that later for the oneg. However, the 8th commandment spoke to me because of Judaism's focus on mitzvot. We are taught to give back to our community. Stealing is the opposite of a mitzvah. You are taking something that belongs to someone else. Thou shalt not steal means more than not shoplifting or taking someone's lunch from the office's refrigerator. Hannah, don't take mine. I see the commandment as telling us not to take another person's ideas, humanity, or spirit. It is more than just protecting material things. From an early age, I was taught that Jews give themselves to others. We host food drives and work to clean up the beach. Thou shalt not steal means also means we should not take someone else's idea. We should build on it. Jewish scientists have put their intelligence to work shaping the modern world. Sometimes their faith kept them from being accepted. Einstein's theory of relativity changed the way we see our universe. Niels Bohr discovered electrons revolve around the nucleus. They willingly share their knowledge with the rest of the world, instead of keeping it for personal gain. On a personal note, my mother's cousin, Dr. Honor Patz, discovered a linkage between incubators having too much oxygen and blindness in premature babies. Unable to find public funding to research his theory, he went to his in-laws, and they privately funded the study. His work was revolutionary and exemplifies this idea of giving to others. In everyday life, the 8th commandment affects what we do. We should always look for the owner of the wallet found lying on the ground. Taking the time to help others is what the 8th commandment tells us to do. By prohibiting stealing, we are instructed and or guided to think of the others in our life. This type of behavior builds trust in our society, and is better for it. I just wish everyone would take the time to think of others and give back when they can. Human rights have been trampled for years, and quite frankly, as Jews, we know the effects of having our rights, our dignity stolen from us. I think the 8th commandment reminds us how important it is to remember what it's like to have our freedom stolen. The 8th commandment does not only tell us what not to do. I think it encourages us to act when we see it happening to others. I was proud to see fellow Jews peacefully protesting in the wake of the police brutality cases last summer. The 10 Commandments are a guide for us on how we act. To me, the 8th commandment prohibits us from taking advantages of others. We should all strive to do a mitzvah every day. This is why the 8th commandment is important to me.
The ninth commandment, found in the book of Exodus, reads, "Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor." Despite being only one sentence of 9 words, this commandment carries broad and wide-reaching implications. And to understand these implications, we must first understand the way this law was originally applied. In the original Hebrew legal system, only 2 or 3 sworn witnesses were required for a charge to stick in a religious court headed by a judge. It is clear then that perjury was deadly in those days and would be subject to the same penalties. That means that in capital cases, if one was found guilty of lying about the accused, they would be punishable by death. Emphasizing just how dangerous false testimony can be in the legal system, King Solomon is quoted as saying, "The lying witness is a deceitful man who mocks at justice. He is like a war club or a sword or a sharp arrow. A false witness will not go unpunished." This commandment is intended to prevent the legal system from being used as a weapon and to ensure that it functions as a fair administrator of justice. This idea has remained central in modern history as well. For example, the Declaration of Rights of Man and the Citizen, a type of early Bill of Rights drafted by the revolutionary French government, states that a person can only be accused, arrested, and detained in cases determined by law. Those who carry out arbitrary orders must be punished. It also provides that everyone is presumed innocent until they are declared guilty by a court. The ideals of the French Revolution bled into the founding of our own government. The Bill of Rights, published 2 years after, gives people a number of legal protections, including the right to an attorney, to have charges brought by a grand jury, to have a fair, public, and speedy trial by a jury, as well as the freedom from self-incrimination, excessive bails and fines, and from cruel and unusual punishments. John Adams even asserted that people have a right to, quote, a government of laws and not of men. This means that trials should be fair and just, unimpeded by false witnesses. If people were convicted of crimes under false witnesses, that would constitute a government of men and not of laws. While this is important, I would also like to emphasize the implications of this commandment outside the courtroom, in our daily lives. This commandment emphasizes the value of trust. A community in which people can trust one another is a community that can thrive, socially, politically, and economically. It allows for healthy business growth, a stable political system, and positive social interaction. A community without trust is one where business is nearly impossible, since people will not know if they can trust the quality of the goods they're buying, as well as one that is politically impractical, since there will be little cohesion, compromise, or consensus when citizens do not believe that their compatriot will play by the rules. But what does that have to do with this commandment? Beyond outlawing perjury, this commandment also prohibits libel, slander, and the spreading of false rumors. If any of you have ever been the subject of a false rumor, or has heard someone repeat a rumor about someone else that you know is false, then you know how quickly you lose trust in the person responsible for starting that rumor. Now imagine that on a massive scale. Imagine that almost everyone you know lies about other people all the time, and that almost everyone you know has had lies spread about them. You would never trust anyone, would you? Not in your personal life. You don't want to talk to liars because you know you may soon be the subject of their lies. Not in your business. You don't want to buy from a liar since you don't know what they're saying is true. Not in your government. If you elect liars, how can you expect them to tell the truth about matters that matter to you and your families and your cities? You cannot expect any campaign promises to be fulfilled, and you cannot expect to know what your tax dollars may be funding. Now, if we take a step back from that, we can see just how catastrophic it would be if this commandment were disregarded. The ninth commandment has been important throughout history and continues to be today. From the religious courts of the old Hebrew legal system to the revolutions of the 18th century, up to this very day, the prohibition of bearing false witnesses has been a vital piece of the groundwork in our legal system, as well as every interaction in our daily lives. Without it, civilization could never have progressed as it did. Justice must be administered justly, and our existences, if this were not the case, would be haunted by fears of being prosecuted for non-existent crimes and false rumors, and we would be weighed down by unsettling distrust. Now, I know this has sounded a lot more like a lecture on history than an oration on religion, but if there's a message that I want to leave you with, it's this. Remember the importance of trust in everything you do. We all strive to be good members of the Jacksonville community and of the Jewish community in general. And there is no community without trust, and trust is only maintained through truth. I hope that in your daily lives, you are truthful to everyone you meet, and I hope that everyone is truthful unto you. Shabbat Shalom.
Hi, Shabbat Shalom. Today, my fellow classmates and I embark on the next step of our spiritual journey. We look towards the future as we decide what colleges to attend, what career paths we might head down, and for some of us, these are our last few moments together before we figure out what we will do for the rest of our lives. But how did we get here? Just a few short years ago, we stood on this very bema as unsure preteens doing whatever it is our pubescent voices at the time decided was chanting. During our B'nai mitzvahs, where we swore to accept Judaism and all of its values, how did we morph into this confident group of young adults that stand before you? I can personally attest to the fact that my journey has been a long one, full of learning, growth, perseverance, and good company. 7th grade was when I actually started to show up to Sunday school and form friendships with my classmates, aka sit down at their table and force them to pay attention to me instead of Fortnite. I began to actually pay attention in class, shocker, I know, learn about the values of Jewish life. One value that especially stood out to my awkward middle school self is B'Tselem Elohim. For those that may not be familiar with this value, it means that we are all made in the image of God. I bet some of you are thinking this resonated with me because it inflated my extravagant ego, yet this value actually administered the opposite effect. The words that especially put this phrase into perspective for me are the first three. We are all. I experienced a light bulb moment because there is just something special about every single being on this planet being hand-spun in God's little mixing pot. Every detail so delicately etched into our flesh. Just like all life-altering things do, this advice took some time to settle in, yet once it did, I started to embrace not only my own so-called imperfections, but also those of others. This new perspective has allowed me to grow as a person and foster relationships with all types of people. I tend to see myself as an optimist, and I attribute this trait to B'Tselem Elohim. Yes, the idea may seem boring, given that we all stand on equal footing. That doesn't mean we stand in the same way. I believe the psychologist Howard Gardner had the best theory when it came to people's different talents. Gardner theorized that intelligence is not based on just basic book knowledge, but is actually perceived in 8 different categories. Along with your typical book smarts, other types of intelligence include musical intelligence and survival skills. Even leadership is seen as just as important in forms of intelligence. We all have different strengths and weaknesses, and especially in today's world where we often get too caught up in everything that makes us different, we tend to forget the major way that we are the same. We are all made in the image of God. I too am guilty of following social grouping protocols despite the fact that everybody seems to feel more comfortable in the environment once those barriers are broken. A fantastic example of this is actually our confirmation class. There are so many different personalities and I sometimes wonder how our ragtag group of baseball players, debate team stars, a ninja, a mad scientist, a dancer, a budding guitarist, and your resident theater kid came to be. The short answer is, I forced them. Sorry, I lost my place. While true, the better way of phrasing this is another psychology term I learned called superordinate goals. A superordinate goal is a goal that every person in a so-called team is attempting to fulfill. In our case, the goal was not looking like lonely losers at the B'nai mitzvahs we led and attended. You guys are making me laugh. It is safe to say our goal was achieved, yet the funny thing was that our desire for familiarity at these parties turned into us digging deeper and realized we had fundamental things in common, such as our passion for Judaism. To me, the core concept of B'Tselem Elohim is the same idea. We need to embrace people from all different walks of life, no, not out of necessity at a giant B'nai mitzvah party, but because we all share the fundamental similarity of being created by God. The past few years of my spiritual journey has also taught me to embrace myself. Like most people, I have insecurities and things I have needed to learn to love about my body. Last year around Hanukkah, I had a few friends over at my house to celebrate the Festival of Lights with my family and I. At said party, one of the guests broached the topic of my nose. He said that he did not know whether it was too large or too petite, but either way, it was wrong. Said guest then encouraged my other friends to take sides on this debate, and it went on for 5 uncomfortable minutes. During this time, I felt awful, thoughts such as, is my nose really that ugly? And wow, how embarrassing is it that I never realized how peculiar the shape of my nose was. While I busily contemplated my appearance, my boyfriend at the time, who had previously been silent, spoke up. He said, and I quote, "I think her nose is perfect." Now don't get me wrong, I do not need anybody's approval, but alas, he was right. God himself crafted my nose just for me, and that makes my nose, no matter how it looks, beautiful. That night, I looked extra long in the mirror at every part of my nose and felt as if it was not good enough. I quickly grew tired of this pity party and reminded myself of B'Tselem Elohim. Every day, I looked myself in the mirror and slowly but surely convinced myself that I was gorgeous, nose and all. We all have our noses and obstacles, yet it's possible to overcome them. Yes, I do still sometimes wish my nose would be different, but I just remind myself that it's there because God intended for it to be there, and that is pretty comforting. Overall, my journey of B'Tselem Elohim has allowed me to grow closer to others and finally find peace within myself. If I had not learned about this value when I did, I may not have found such an amazing group of friends and accepted even the obscure aspects of myself. As I continue to cascade down my spiritual path, I will take with me the lessons B'Tselem Elohim has taught me, and I challenge you all to do the same. Thank you.
So it is with pleasure that I'd like to invite to the Bima the young lady who basically quarterbacked this class through this year. So Mara, bevakasha.
Hey, what's up? Hello. Hopefully I find my own speech. I was more worried about everyone else's than my own. So here we go. What's up, guys? All right, cool. My dudes, let's just address the elephant in the room before we get this show on the road. This year has been anything but traditional. In fact, some would call it unprecedented times. Nonetheless, you have all gone above and beyond with your involvement and commitment to both confirmation and spending time together, continuing to connect with your Jewish roots and fellow Jewish teens. No, but really, I am so proud of all of the energy and effort you have put forth into taking the next steps into your Jewish lives. I don't know if y'all remember our first meeting where we kind of just sat and stared at each other. Just kidding. We sat down and tried to define what confirmation was, what the purpose of it is, and what topics we may want to talk about and address during the course of our time together. Let's be honest, did we really define what confirmation was? I'm not 100% sure, but I think we can all agree that by taking this step, you are committing yourself to continuing your Jewish education and following through with a Jewish lifestyle. Through everything this year, you all have been my constant. For real, I looked forward to Jafty events on Friday nights, weekly board meetings, monthly confirmation meetings, and any time I get to spend hanging out with all of you. I have learned so much from y'all about pop culture, TikTok, Lil Nas X, Among Us, and the word sus. Thank you. In return, I hope I have taught you a thing or two about how to have a relationship with Judaism, even if it isn't the most traditional style. The way I see Judaism is in a few ways: a culture, a community, a lifestyle, and a religion. Judaism can be all of those things at once or just bits and pieces at one time, depending on where you're at in your personal life. This year, you have all shown that Judaism is a religion by taking this next step and confirming your faith and continuance of learning. Each of you have taken part of our Kahila Kadosha, our holy community, by attending Siyum at the beginning of the year, Jafty events throughout the year, attending confirmation classes, and most importantly, showing up this evening. You all have stepped up towards a Jewish lifestyle and are continuing to learn about your culture through Israel education, social action opportunities, and other opportunities in the community. I'm so grateful for having the opportunity to learn with you, grow with you, and continue to help you grow and learn about Judaism, leadership, and personal development. This whole year has provided me with the opportunity to get to know you all on a deeper level, and on a level that has provided me with experiences and opportunities to continue to achieve my own personal goals, but also to help you set and achieve your own. 2020 and 2021 were different years. I am sure none of you ever expected to be required to wear a mask to school, to socially distance yourself from all of your friends, and that your lifestyles would be uprooted by a modern-day pandemic. However, as inconvenient as it may have been, I hope you took away different lessons and grew in your relationships with family and friends in a different way. Just like our relationships with friends, families, sports teams, schools, etc., your relationship with Judaism may ebb and flow. Though I hope you remember Judaism is always here for you, even in the most unexpected ways. From personal experience, my own relationship with Judaism has had its peaks and lulls. One thing that has always been constant, no matter my school situation, friend drama, stressors in life, patches of depression, and any other thing life throws and continues to throw at me, Judaism has always been there for me, as I hope it is for you too. This year we talked about our beliefs in God, our views on prayers, spirituality, relationships we have with our rabbis, cantors, and Jewish educators, and how we feel during a traditional service or even sitting at a high holiday service. And you all know that for me personally, being Jewish is not about any of that. It's about the culture, the connection, the music, and being grounded by my camp roots. My wish for all of you in your Jewish futures is that you find what grounds you in your Jewish identity and in your own Jewish lives, be it services, Jafti, TIR, the Majachim program, social action projects, Israel education, camp, Nifty SAR, relationships with clergy, educators, whatever it may be, always remember that Judaism is here for you, and your Judaism is what you decide it is from this moment forward. Mazel Tov, Abby, Ben, Gratz, Cam Gratz, Jacob, Ben O, Alice, Lily, Vesper, and Aaron. It has been such a pleasure working with all of you, and I am so excited to see where your Jewish journey takes you.
Thank you, Mara. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You should be aware that what Mara said is greatly true, and you should take great pride in these young people because it was a difficult year. And they overcame a lot of stuff. And yet here they are and spoke from their heart and did something that is the most traditional thing for Jews to do. They took a text, which they were given. They looked at the text and analyzed the text and allowed the text to speak to them. So when we do the Torah study, basing la'asok b'divrei Torah, which says, let the text speak to you. That's what scholars do. That's what teachers do. That's what rabbis do. So these 9 young rabbis tonight allowed the text to speak to them and then offered an interpretation to you. This is the most traditional thing that we do. And it is, in truth, according to Jewish tradition, it is a way that we bring the presence of God into our lives. When people study together, as you have tonight, according to the tradition, the presence of God is with them. And so you, whether you knew it or not when you walked in here, were witnesses to a very, very traditional mitzvah, the concept of studying Torah and interpreting Torah to a congregation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask those 9 young rabbis to please come forward to the bima. I'm going to ask you to come right around here in a semicircle. That's okay. Gets any closer, we'll get married. come a little closer, nothing's going to happen. First of all, let me again congratulate you on your interpretations. You spoke from the heart. You opened up a lot of issues. You correctly interpreted text, which was very difficult, because on the surface they seem easy, but as you all pointed out, once you pull back the curtain on the text and allow it to speak to you, as you have done, that text takes on a whole variety of different meanings. Here's the challenge. The challenge is, and you guys talked about it, whether you knew it or not. The challenge is what you do with it. And that's really all that matters right now. It's what you do with the words that you spoke. Because if you leave them here, they mean nothing. It's an exercise in futility. But what really is happening and what is in the hearts and hopes of your parents, and in truth, this congregation as well, is that at this point in your life, when you are actually beginning to understand the subtleties of life, the challenges of life, some of the pain, as well as some of the joy, both emotionally, spiritually, physically. If you can take these ideas that you began to talk about tonight and take them with you into the future and mold the Judaism in this country that means something, that stands for something. That's really what tonight is all about. That's all it's about. You know? It's really saying now you're not a kid anymore. Yeah, some of you stood here, 3 years ago or so for a bar or bat mitzvah. It was wonderful. But you're a 13-year-old kid. You're not a kid anymore. And not only that, the world is looking at you not as children, but the world is looking at you as young adults. In a couple of years, some of you sooner rather than others, you're going to be walking out of here into college or a gap year or really away from home and safety and really beginning to be on your own. And all those challenges that you're beginning to see in high school, all those challenges and temptations will be magnified. And it is a hope that as those challenges and temptations come to you, some little spark of what's happening here tonight, right now, on this bima, will be remembered in your neshama, in your soul. And you'll say, I know what the right decision is. I understand it in my gut, in my neshama, because remember, this lies. This never lies. This never lies. And there will be times when people will talk to you and try to convince you to do this, and it's going to be fun, and it's going to be hip, and it's going to be cool. And you'll say, I've always wanted to do that, or what's the harm? It's only this, it's only that. And you'll go back to your home, or you'll go back to your dorm, or you'll go back to your apartment, and your soul will say, let's think about that. That's part of what tonight is about. And the future, in many ways, of this Jewish community in Jacksonville and, in truth, the entire United States. You're going to be part of that. We are in the midst of a tremendous transition. The Judaism that you will grow up with is fundamentally going to be different than the Judaism that I grew up with, because we are in the midst of this unbelievable transition. And whether it is for blessing or for curse, I hate to do this to you, but a lot of it's going to rest on what you guys decide to do. That's a great challenge. You've begun beautifully. So I'm going to do something before we do the blessing that we did not rehearse. I did clear it with my colleagues over here. but it may even start a new tradition here. So I'm going to ask the congregation for this and for the blessing to please rise. In your bar bat mitzvah, you may have passed the Torah from generation to generation. And it's a wonderful symbol. We're not doing that now. What I'm going to ask you to do is take this Torah and literally pass it to each other. Because you formed a community here this year. You formed a bond. But instead of generation to generation with parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles, what I'm going to ask you to think about is as you pass this scroll, this symbol of Jewish tradition, especially now, and especially on this Shabbat with so much pain in the world, I'm going to ask you to think about this. And as you pass this, you're passing it to each other as the next generation of Jews. And with it goes all that responsibility of what type of Judaism you will create, what type of person each one of you will choose to become. This is the responsibility now. You're no longer kids. You are young adults. And in a very few years, and ask your parents because time goes like that. The decisions of our community will rest with you. Choose wisely, choose well, and in the words of Deuteronomy, choose life. Make those choices that sanctify life. Really? It's tough to let go. And in this symbolism of entering the future and taking the Torah and all of that means with you into the future, I want you to join with Cantor Barry in our most ancient of blessings. May God bless you and keep you. May God's presence, however you choose to define that term, and do not be afraid to allow it to be defined differently as you grow as a human being. Do not fear. May it be gracious with you. And may each one of you be blessed with God's most precious of blessings. And may you have the courage to return it to your yourself, to your family, to your friends, and to a world that desperately needs it more than any other time. The blessing of shalom, the blessing of peace. Amen. Stay here. Here, come with me over here. Turn around. Thank you. Page 282, remain standing and join with the cantor in the Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol l'tedkenu l'liyotzeh breshit shelo asanu kegoyei haratzot v'lo samanu k'mishpachot hadama shelo sam chelkenu kahem v'glor aleinu kechol hamonam v'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech melechei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu v'ne'emar v'haya Adonai lemelech al kol haaretz bayom hahu yeh Adonai echad u'shemo echad.
You may be seated. And before we conclude the service, Sherry Zetlin, the chair of our education committee, is Sherry here? There she is. Hi, I can't with the glare off the, has some presentations for the class.
On behalf of the Education Committee, we just want to extend a hearty mazel tov to you for your accomplishment tonight, and personally, your speeches were very thought-provoking, and I am in awe of your wisdom. Alice? Addie? Ben Gratz? Cam Gratz? Ben Oberdorfer? Jacob Schreiber? Lily? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Return to your seats. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. We'll be seeing you back here for Kiddush and Mosi, but you may return to your seats. Thank you very much. Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed from this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to all humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and of loss, of life and of death. We name those for whom Shiva is being observed in this congregation: Dr. Harold Rabin, Aileen Sobo, for those for Shloshim, John Grado, Mark Snitzer, Matthew Hockman, Marilyn Levitt, and Gary Nadler. And for those the anniversary of whose passing is observed on this Shabbat: Barry Buchholz, Mars Cherwinski, Harry Krieger, Gustav Doby, William Dorman, Betty Gray Drucker, Yvette Sylvia Edelman, Wendy Efron, Pearl Elenoff, Yasaniel Falik, Benjamin Fink, Nathan Friedman, Nathan Geffen, Lillian Gimple, Mitchell A. Groh, Rose Hockman, Harry Cantor, Sam Stein, Lori Bear Kopel, Steve Corman, Harold Lewis, Hannah S. Lipsy, Harris Simon Lipsy, Sarah O. Morgan, Earl Moss, Julius Naumberg, Elise Bear Pollock, David Rothstein, Erwin B. Rothstein, Benjamin Setzer, Fanny Silverstein, Benjamin Simon, Rhoda Sisiski, Norma Tasman, Rose Weinstock. We would add all those who have perished in conflagration, war, and terrorism, especially in this last week. For those of you who would like to add a name, particularly, we would ask you to do so now as we go around the sanctuary. Thank you. For those we name in public, and always for those who we still carry, always in the privacy of our own hearts and souls. May their lives continue to be a blessing for us and for all humanity. I'd ask you to please turn to page 294 and rise in body or spirit as we pray together. Yit kadal v'yit kadash shemei rabo, v'yoma divrach hirute v'yamlich malchute, v'chayechonu v'yomechonu v'chayeda kol beit Yisrael, v'agalav v'zman kari v'imru, amen. Yehei shemei rabo mevarach le'olam olamei olamaya, Yit barach v'yishtavach v'yitpa'ar v'yitraman v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudisha brichu le'elo min kol berchota v'shirata tush bechota v'nechamata da'amiram v'yama v'imru, amen. Yehei shalom rabba min shemaya v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Osei shalom b'mramav hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, to all who may be bereaved, as we say together, amen. I'd ask you to please be seated, and it is with honor we call to bring some greetings and announcements the president of the congregation, David Kaufman. David? And who's with you? I can't see. Miriam, the glare on the isolation booth. Some of you remember the isolation booth? Thank God somebody does.
That's really weird with this glass here. Well, as Rabbi said, it's been a very difficult year, or difficult week, I should say, in Israel. And it's also been a very difficult week here for many of us in Jacksonville and St. Johns County. And so how good is it to be here tonight surrounded by these amazing young adults, and mazel tov to all of you and to your families. You did a spectacular job, and thank you to Cantor and Mara and Rabbi for helping you prepare for this evening. I'd also like to offer mazel tov wishes to Caden Young, who will become a bar mitzvah tomorrow. Torah study will begin tomorrow at 9 o'clock with Rabbi Address, followed by morning worship with Rabbi Address Cantor Barry and Caden Young leading services at 10:30. On Sunday evening, we will observe Erev Shavuot with Yizkor service led by Rabbi Address and Cantor at 7 o'clock. That will be in person. Hopefully you've made reservations to be here for that. It will also be live streamed for those who cannot be here. Monday, our offices will be closed in honor of Shavuot, to observe Shavuot. But the Temple Book Group with Sophia Pentel will go on at 7 o'clock on Monday evening. And on Tuesday, Wisdom will be held at 10:30. Tonight's also an important night for us for another reason that I've asked our President-elect Miriam Greenhut to join me tonight. This month will be the last month, and this weekend will be the last in-person weekend that we will enjoy the presence of Rabbi Address, who's been with us since last February as our visiting rabbi and has filled in for services and Torah study and other educational events, helped guide us through a very difficult high holiday season last year. And so we wanted to honor Rabbi Address and thank him for the time he has spent with us. So Miriam and Rabbi, if you would join us.
So how crazy is it that having begun work together in February 2019, I actually got to say to Rabbi Address tonight, it's nice to meet you. It's true.
It's true.
Right? So I don't know how many of y'all know this, but Rabbi Address did join us well before he actually agreed to be our rabbi. He was our advisor to our rabbinic search committee. And we have been so fortunate that he agreed to be our rabbi for this past year. How lucky we are that he was here to guide us, support us, teach us, and again, he was a lovely, wonderful advisor during the rabbinic search process. So we wanted to mark this moment to say thank you.
You're welcome.
You have been just invaluable and gracious, and to show our gratitude, we will be making a contribution in your honor to the Max Block Food Pantry, because that is obviously something that's near and dear to our hearts, and we wanted to mark the occasion with that honor.
Thank you.
So thank you
very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
And if I can, if you'll give me a minute. No, don't go. I just have to say Mazel Tov to this confirmation class. I am beyond proud and impressed. You guys, again, I hope you guys mark the moment. I am always intimidated when I get up and speak, and I'm really intimidated now because you guys are amazing. So I am so proud of you, and Mazel Tov.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. One of the ideas, Miriam and David, if you can, I don't know, it's possible, but I think the congregation as a whole would derive great benefit from reading these speeches. And the challenge I'll throw out to you all, I'll speak New Jerseyan. What you should do, if possible, is to take these speeches and print them up and make them available on the website, or make them available. I really do think that the congregation deserves to see this and read this, because in between the lines, there was some very, very powerful in each one of these speeches. So I'm going to hope that you do that. And Torah study is at 9 o'clock tomorrow. It's a very challenging Torah portion. And lo and behold, with the release of the new Pew study last Tuesday, we're going to talk about that a little bit tomorrow morning, because it has significant implications for the Judaism that these 9 young people are going to be growing up in. And it does come right off the Torah portion, but that's tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. So we'll move into the conclusion, the Kiddush and the Motzi and the Adon Olam, and I'm going to invite the class back up to the Bima to join with the Cantor because you rehearsed this 1,000,000 times, which means at 5:45 tonight. You're going to lead them in Kiddush and Motzi? Okay.
And if you'd like to follow along with the Kiddush, it is on page 5. It has been so long since I turned to page 5 in this book. It is very exciting. Somebody lift up the glass. It's not, it's grape juice. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'yiratam lanu. V'shabbat kodsho me'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit ki hu yom techilah lemikra'ei kodesh zecher letzion mitzrayim kivanu Ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'arim ve'shabbat kodshecha ve'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat. L'chaim.
Go ahead.
Somebody drink the grape juice. We blessed it. Somebody has to drink it. I promise it's grape juice and it's fresh. I opened the bottle before the service. If you're not drinking, I am.
I've been volunteered.
L'chaim.
So powerful.
You gave a sermon about not lying and you think I lied to you? It's a bottle of grape juice I opened right before the service. Ha-motzi lechem min haaretz. We give thanks to God for bread. Our voices rise in song together. As our joyful prayer is said, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
They're passing the bread like this. It's challah. You eat it, you don't pass it like my God.
What does the CDC say about passing the challah?
Look what we've come to. They're passing the sacred bread. Oh, well, Alice doesn't have it. Alice doesn't eat here anymore. Come on.
I think this is significantly safer than open today.
If everyone would turn to page 321, the class has requested that we conclude with this Adon Olam. I expect everyone
Everybody
to say.
up. Let's go. Come on.
Adon Olam, Asher Malach, V'terem kol yitzir nivra, Eit nasa, V'chatzo kol, Azay melech shemo nikra Adon Olam, V'acharei kichlot hakol, Levado yimloch nora Adon Olam, V'hu haya, V'hu hoveh, V'hu yeh v'tifera Adon Olam, Adon Olam, Asher malach, V'terem kol, Yitzir nivra, Eit nasa, V'chatzo kol, Azay melech shemo nikra Adon Olam. והוא אחד ואין שני, לעם שלו להכביר אדון עולם, בלי ראשית, בלי תכלית, ללא העוז והמצווה, אדון עולם, אדון עולם, אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, עת נשא וחפשו כל, אזי בלך שמו נקרא אדון עולם, והוא אלי וחי גואלי, וצור חברי בעת צרה אדון עולם, והוא ניסי ומנוס לי, מנת כוסי ביום נקרא אדון עולם, אדון עולם, אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, ועת נשא וחפשו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא אדון עולם, בידו הפקיד רוחי, ועת ישן ואירא אדון עולם, ואם רוחי כביאתי, אדוני לי ולא אירא אדון עולם, אדון עולם, אשר מלך בטרם כל יציר נברא, ועת נשא וחפשו כל, אזי מלך שמו נקרא אדון עולם.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Shabbat Shalom, Mazel Tov. Well done, well done.
Is that it?